Healthy Living Matters is a community collaborative of community, well, it's a community collaborative of members that represent a variety of sectors, very forward-thinking, innovative individuals who've all come around this issue to address childhood obesity through policy. We have folks on our collaborative who come from the transportation sector. We have folks who represent school districts and early child care providers and community-based organizations who are really vested in their individual communities and the community at large in Harris County. We often show the video that you saw today because it reminds us of just why healthy living in fact matters. So there's always statistics that really catch my attention. 1 in 3 children, for instance, are at risk for overweight or obesity. And that translates to 1 in 3 children at risk for developing diabetes. So it's not just an issue about how a child looks. There are true health implications for overweight and obesity. Now, as if this were not shocking enough, there are some communities in Harris County where children are at risk. Well, there are actually 50% or more children at risk for overweight and obesity. And that's one of the most astounding findings that we've discovered through this process. So at this time, I'm going to transition a little bit and give you a little bit of history of where we began, the 2 years of work that eventually culminated into a community action plan, which everyone now should have a copy of. So back in early 2010, between 2010 and 2011, the Houston Endowment decided to pull together stakeholders across the community because they were very much interested in wanting to move the needle with respect to childhood obesity, really turn things around. And this group that was brought together, it was a smaller group, but still multi-sector. We had folks who represented health, public health, school districts, and so forth, but we knew that we needed to expand that membership. And so when the Houston Endowment decided to fund a planning process, we went through an extensive process of recruiting folks from a number of sectors, brought them all to the table. We organized ourselves initially as a steering committee, and we developed a community planning team. And for those who wanted to be engaged but really could not participate as intensely, they committed to being on the resource panel. So they were like, you know, whenever you need me, I'm there. Just activate me as needed. And so after we organized ourselves, we then set out on a very ambitious path of accomplishing work in a few key areas. One area is the area of assessment. And it's through our assessments that we were able to pinpoint areas within the county where we noticed that childhood obesity rates are more common than the community at large. After zooming in on those communities, we decided, you know, there's some assets in some of these communities as well that we need to take into consideration and combine the assets and the opportunities with the issues that we discovered. There were some audits of the built environment, meaning looking at the community design in some of these communities, as well as the food environment. And the individual who has taken lead in that effort, Dr. Pia Nelson, she will be talking to you all in more detail about that. That work basically resulted in a community action plan. And there's very specific recommendations that talk about how we can change the community's design and how we can foster opportunities for healthy eating in those communities. And I should make a note that, of course, it will be important to highlight that the communities are near Northside and Fifth Ward is one area. And then there's another community, Pasadena. We look at elementary schools and the areas around those elementary schools. Along with the assessments, we did a very intense policy scan. And Tim Schauer with government, Cornerstone Government Affairs will be talking with you all about that process. But we wanted to better understand the policy and the political landscape for a number of policy areas that would impact childhood obesity, and he's going to talk with you all about that in a bit. And then the final category of the bulk of our work really was around our community engagements. And with our community engagements, this is where we really wanted to get feedback from residents, from stakeholders, as to what the barriers and the limitations and the opportunities were when it comes to eating healthy and having opportunities for physical activity. So we talked a little bit last night about one of the engagements, and that was our legislative briefing that was held in the most recent Texas legislative session. Representative Alma Allen hosted that legislative briefing, and out of that we were able to really establish ourselves in the Texas legislature. There's a House resolution that formalizes healthy living matters in the Texas legislature, so we're very happy about that. We also held a series of engagements, a series of workshops with our youth. And we did this in partnership with the Clinton Foundation's Alliance for a Healthier Generation. And out of that, their work culminated into a youth summit that was held in May of last year. And you will be hearing from one of our youth ambassadors who was involved in that process a little bit later today. Finally, we also had we had 4 community forums across the county, ranging from as far west in the Ailey community along Highway 6 in Beechnut, Bissonnet area, from there to the southeast side of the county in the city of Fort. And after we gathered all the information that we accumulated over basically almost 2 years, we shared that information in bite-sized pieces, and we provided a list of policies that we wanted those residents to prioritize and inform us of what was important to them and how can we actually compel action for those ideas. So out of all of those engagements, out of all of that assessment work, after doing a very thorough and thoughtful policy scan, what resulted in that was our community action plan, and you all have copies of that. And we were very intentional and very thoughtful and very deliberative about making sure that the plan represents the interest of the community. And at this point, moving forward, it's going to be important for us collectively as a community to adopt the plan, support the plan, and do everything that's necessary to help tip the scale in favor for the health of our children. Thank you. So at this point, I would like to just bring up some of our dynamic team members. First, I want to introduce to you Bruce Wilcoxon. Bruce Wilcoxon serves as the co-chair of our executive committee, and he will be serving as moderator. Lakia Nelson has served as the team lead for the assessment work, and any questions that you may have about the priority communities that we've described, she will be able to answer those questions for you. And then we have Tim Schauer. He was very instrumental in leading our group through the policies that came out of his scan, and he will be available to answer any questions that you may have.